So I picked up Resident Evil Revelations 2 because it was on sale 4 different times during the lifespan it's been active. So the first trophy I get actually is a silver trophy, and I had no idea that I was going to get it. Then when I was playing, I have a few tips and tricks I would like to share with you if you're going to platinum this trophy. If you buy episode 1, play it on easy mode, casual mode, beginner mode, whatever you want to call it, then you will pop the trophy for just clearing the episode. Then what I do is go and collect every medal while I'm familiar with those episodes, and I get a trophy for that. Then I go to invisible mode and I play that same episode. Then I go to cooldown and I play that. That's the ideal path. That's what I would give a tip and trick to tell you. What I did was I completed the main story, then I actually did go back and get the medals. I was very familiar with Resident Evil 6, and the medals you had to get in that were pretty difficult. But I was familiar with it, so this one wasn't that terribly difficult because I knew certain things about the prior games. Alright, after you buy all 4 episodes, you're pretty much in good standing. Then I'll explain how the episodes really work. First off, you have 2 characters that can fight, and that's Claire Redfield and Barry. I forget what Barry's last name is, but those are your 2 fighters. They both have 1 supporting character each. Moira supports Claire and Natalia supports Barry. Moira can have a crowbar and a flashlight and be able to blind enemies. Then Natalia can pick up bricks, and Moira has a crowbar. Natalia can also spot enemies and enemy weak points. So if you're playing with Claire, you'll notice that there are certain enemies that don't appear very often in Claire's campaign, in her mode. There is a lot of, what do they call them in this game? Rotten. And then there, besides the rotten, Barry gets 2 enemies that Claire doesn't usually get, and those are the relevant is what they're called in this game. Resident Evil 6's regenerators. Then Glasps, which Glasps do show up in Claire's campaign after a little bit, but it takes a while. So when I was going through this, I was just collecting all the medals in the chapter, and that set off a lot of fireworks when it came to the trophies. They just started popping. Because stealth kills will get you a medal. A lot of the things you'll just get. It added a lot of good. There was story medals, and there was, playing medals, where playing the game was fun because every now and then you'd get a trophy popped up. But like I said, episode 1, get all the story out of the way, and I had to get these Kafka emblems and not emblems, but Kafka drawings and tower emblems and insect larvae. I don't know why. There's only 1 medal in the game that says collected every tower emblem, and that was in episode 4. So in episode 1, once I was fully done with it, I had all the medals. You don't have to get them all at once. You can just go to your screen and see which ones you're missing and get the one that you're missing, and it will count. Same with like certain kills. But when episode 2 came around, I knew I had to kill this guy Pedro. which is pretty difficult starting out. You don't have all the battle points needed, but right here in episode 2 is the best place to get battle points. You start the episode from scratch, put it on easy or survival, whichever one you want, and then there's about 4 or 5 places Moira can look and get random treasure. And the rubies, well, let's start small. The topaz gives you 100 battle points. The rubies give you 250 battle points. Sapphires give you 500, and emblems and diamonds can give you 1,000 or 2,000. So they're really worthwhile to get. And like I said, just going through and getting these medals, I was able to actually pop up several of the trophies just on natural play, because there's 24 trophies that are tied to the story. Whether you just play on standard, which you don't have to do normal or survival at all if you don't want to. Then invisible mode and countdown mode. Those all take, oh, and every medal. So there's 24 trophies that are pretty much based on the main campaign. The other ones are based on stuff you can do on those campaigns. Besides, I think there's 3 you get from raid mode, but I say raid mode to do last because I thought it was online, and that's what I had about this impressionable game. I was like, if it's DLC and you always have to pay for it, can I actually get the platinum for it? And I kept it on the shelf for a long time, over 5 years, I'd say. And I'm glad that I got around to it because I actually enjoyed it, and the difficulty wasn't that bad. What I really liked was, yeah, the 2 enemies here. Here's a glass, and they're invisible. So invisible mode was a lot less scary in this game because you had actual means and methods that you could get to complete the invisible mode and see the enemies, but you'd have to damage them or point them out with your supporting character. And then in episode 2 with Barry, I'd like to point out that Barry's episode takes place 6 months after Claire's, and that you also have to complete Claire's episode to unlock Barry's, or at least I had to. The weapons that they can use, you got pistols, you got shotguns, you got magnum, you got a sniper rifle, you got your knife. Yeah, Resident Evil. But you got around 2 or 3 different types of versions for each of the weapons. Right here, I got an unexpected trophy. I was in episode 3, and right here, a lot of things go down. So the first thing that I did is I had Moira kill this because I don't know why. But I got a trophy. And she was a supporting character, not supposed to be able to use a weapon, but she was able to. And then with Barry's episode 3, you don't really have to worry about much. Nothing has changed or anything like that at all. So it all comes down again to just playing the episode, getting the story, getting certain trophies all while you're doing it. Like, you're gonna do at minimum around 4 playthroughs, I'd say, of every episode. So if you notice that the first time I complete an episode, or that you do, you unlock the ability to get cooldown mode. No, not cooldown. It's countdown mode and invisible mode. I would highly suggest staying on one episode at a time. That way you can get the story out of the way, then you can get the medals out of the way, then you should be good enough to know cooldown and invisible mode and where the enemies are actually going to be. the supporting characters can both show you invisible enemies in invisible mode, which is very handy, and damage also. But now I was getting closer to episode 4. During episode 3, if Claire kills Neil, then episode 4 will be changed quite significantly. There is a good ending and a bad ending, or as I like to say, multiple endings. But here I got a random trophy called Bricklayer for just killing enemies with a brick, which shows up as a medal quite often. Here was a gold medal again for getting the trophies. No, the medals themselves in the games. Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil Revelations 2 are two games where I had to get the medals in them at the end of their chapters. But like I said, they don't have to be all at once. You can go back and play a chapter for a specific medal. Like say you had to get 8 headshots and you didn't have it. Just go through the game, get 8 headshots, and finish the mission, and you'll be done. Every episode, there's 4 of them, have 2 chapters in them. Claire's perspective and Barry's perspective. That's 8 level missions that you'll be on. So yeah, here we go. Unlocked cooldown in invisible mode. I actually got the Chicago typewriter there too for some reason. Then over here, I realized that there was something in chapter 4 that wasn't expected when on my first playthrough. There's a switch you can press in episode 4 with Claire that will change things. So let's just go over something real quick. In episode 3 with Claire, the things that change is whether you have Moira or Claire kill the final boss. In episode 4 with Claire, you can press a certain switch and it will change something. And then in episode 4 Barry, well, let's continue. In episode 3 with Claire, in episode 4 with Claire, there we go, I'm perfect right here. In episode 4 with Claire, Moira has a good and a bad ending, sort of. In episode 4 with Barry, what you did with Claire in episode 3 determines his ending. So it's very different from other ways of playing, but it's a way to play replayability is what they were going for. And it made me think while they were designing these levels, how really good do they have? Like, most of the fans could say, oh, I can make a really good Resident Evil game. And then you sit there and look at the dialogues they use. You know, you look at the little bugs and stuff that they got. Then you look at all of that and understand that there are certain recipes that they follow when making a Resident Evil game. One of them is finishing the games in an absurdly short amount of time. But that wasn't Revelations 2's problem. You didn't have to S-rank the missions. You didn't have to find every document. You didn't have to, I'd say you didn't have to do the insect larvae or the tower emblems or the Kafka drawings. I mean, there was only one medal in the game where I had to get it, and I ended up getting them all. I just don't know really what for. And then, what trophy am I on here? I think I'm finishing a certain chapter. Episode 2. Oh, I think I was doing countdown and invisible mode, and these are just bronze trophies too. I've already completed all the gold trophies early. The bottles you can pick up, they're kind of confusing because you can make 4 different types of bombs. Honestly, I would say that the fire bombs are the best. Explosive bombs, decoy bombs, and smoke bombs have their own technical use. Once I was done with most of Countdown and Invisible mode, I was very pleased with myself, and I really thought that getting this platinum was right in my eyes because I said it's a DLC weapon game where you buy stuff. You got to buy each episode. I had them, and I did not know if I was going to be able to do it offline because I don't really do online that much anymore. Besides, make a video or so every now and then. Then here I got a funny trophy where you gotta shoot, I think, 6 glasps with Claire in chapter 4. It was funny because I played the game in easy mode so many times I could never pop that trophy, but at the very end in invisible mode, where the glasps are always invisible no matter what mode you're playing, they popped up and I got a trophy. But that wasn't it. No siree. There was raid mode left, and there was also some trophies that I have long since forgot about from the main campaign. Here's an example of invisible mode. If you damage them, they become visible. If Moira or Natalia spot them with their diversity ways with a flashlight or a finger, you'll temporarily be able to see the enemies in invisible mode. But I think cooldown was a lot harder, or countdown, I always call it cooldown. Countdown was a lot harder because you could trap yourself. I kid you not. There were times when I had to walk 200 yards in 1 minute. You couldn't do it. There was times when I had to fight a boss with 2 minutes. Couldn't do it. Or there was just certain times when I had like 30 seconds left to literally walk to through a whole section. So you can actually take your time in invisible mode, and that's what really helped me out the most. And in invisible mode, I was able to check every enemy with Moira. Here I found Unfriendly Skies was called, and then Disarmed was from this trophy. I had to look this one up. Evidently, there's 2 of them here that have a certain attachment to their arm. And evidently, I started off with 5 of blowing off their arms. And when I got the trophy, I was so tired. It was like an hour because there's only 2 of them in that area. That, I don't know, it just took a long time. With this trophy, all I had to do was make sure that Natalia and Moira didn't throw a brick or hit with the crowbar, and to hit with the knife as much as possible. That was episode 1 with just a knife on casual difficulty. Next I had raid mode, which wasn't terribly difficult, and it's a lot of fun. So I got my first mission done, which I didn't know what a gauntlet was, but evidently every mission you have comes with 6 of them that follow, and if you complete 6 of them, you finish that gauntlet. That's how it works. With the evaluating an item, the higher the price of the item, probably the more worthwhile it will be. And I just got like level 5 weapons and stuff like that that I thought was going to be good, but we'll see. Anyways, that concludes my Resident Evil Revelations 2 Platinum journey. I did have a lot of fun with this game. I compare it to Resident Evil 6, and Resident Evil 4 is probably the best Resident Evil. Resident Evil 5 is my favorite, then 7 and 8, and then 6. So that's kind of where I rank this, but it's a lot easier than Resident Evil 6 was, I think. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Y'all have a good day, good night. And one last thing to say, I'd give this a 6 out of 10 on difficulty. I don't think it was that difficult, but you judge for yourself. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments, and I'll see you next video. Bye bye.